I'm on the train. Well, hello there. I just thought I'd come out for a Dander today in the area of Fisherrow, just to the east of Edinburgh. It's such a relief not to have all the kind of camera gear that I had before, just get this GoPro and a little kind of stick thing. I've got it in a wide setting just now. And of course the problem with a wide setting is that it makes your nose look bigger. If I kind of get closer to the camera, you see what I mean? My nose isn't normally that big. Yeah, so I mean, there's not really a great deal of planning happened here. I've just gone for a Dander. There's a good pub in Fisherrow. I thought I'll have a few beers after that. Just wanted to stretch my legs, get a bit of fresh air. So as I say, it's just a Dander today. I mean, if it's not your thing to watch a kind of guy, an old guy just going for a Dander and a few beers and nothing too exciting is going to happen, then just switch off and watch something else, okay? But for you stalwart subscribers, boy, are we in for a treat. It's adventure time. Well, as you may see by that vast expanse that is unfolding before us, we're approaching the harbour, on the edge of the wide Firth of Forth. I'm not just too sure why I'm talking like this. Boats there, just in case you've never seen a boat before. And the lovely little mid-19th century harbour offices here. It sets off the harbour. It looks much better when the sun's out, but we've got a dull day. Let's go to the end of the harbour. Which end? That's the question. Oh, we'll go this way. Right, okay. Man with GoPro. So as I say, that's boats on the left and there's some vans and cars on the right. Easy to mix them up. Hiya. And you know, from here Fisherrow kind of looks sort of I'm not sure what the word is. There's some modern developments there, housing developments, and nothing really looks too old, you know. May well be that the harbour here is the oldest thing in the place. And like many towns and villages, Fisherrow's had a number of industries over the years. Because it sits by the water in the Firth of Forth, that has dictated what some of these industries have been. I think there was a salt works or salt pans just a little further west along the shore, and there's been all sorts of other industries. Obviously fishing is probably the main one. I think in latter years it was herring that they caught, and the wives of the fishermen would have baited the lines and got up to all sorts of things, and I'll talk a little more about that in a moment. But there's also been a number of breweries in Fisherrow. The Ladywell Brewery and the Fisherrow Brewery, and also a number of separate malthouses. But unfortunately these have gone. Always sad when any industry goes, but in particular when breweries go. It's beautiful, it's lovely, lovely harbour there. Can't quite see if I'm in shot. This is where a taller tripod is very useful. I've got that precariously set up on top of the harbour wall, probably only a matter of time before it gets blown over into the water. I think when you look at photographs of the fishwives here in Fisherrow, they are very similarly dressed to the fishwives at Newhaven. I did a video about Newhaven a while back. Similar sort of costume, you know. Kind of makes you think that perhaps like at Newhaven they're not from here, from somewhere else, the Netherlands or wherever, somewhere over the sea. And as I perhaps touched on earlier, you know, these were hardy, tough women who baited their husbands' nets, and once the fish were caught, they hawked or carted them around the streets of Edinburgh in baskets, selling them from door to door. These were strong, very able women, and when you look at some of the images, they're also in many cases very beautiful women. I don't know if it's the diet of fish or what, or the fact that they're not from here. I think Scottish women are generally pretty ugly, aren't they? But perhaps from somewhere far off they're much more attractive. That's not always the case. You see the odd photograph and you think, ooh. It's a wee bit like that scene in Still Game. I forget her name. That very ugly woman with the teeth missing and she did a pint of Guinness. Her. But yeah, some of them are perhaps less attractive than others. But yeah, and when you see photographs at the end of the fishing season, these women would. Well, I'm seeing something strange up in the sky there. I think it's probably a drone. It's not moving, so it's not a bird. Could be a UFO. Anyway, yeah, at the end of the fishing season, the fishermen and their fishwives would celebrate the end of the fishing season, and the parade through Fisherrow and Musselburgh. And they always looked like they're really enjoying themselves. They always look very happy. In some instances, they look a little bit scarily happy. You think, you can't possibly be that happy, surely. But it looks as if they're really enjoying themselves. You know, the end of the fishing season, it's going to be a time for a cause for celebration. And these women, as well as living a difficult life, a hard life, they also lived a very rich and full life, because sometimes you also see images of them in a choir, the fishwives choir, where they've got their full costume on. These were incredible women, you know. I suppose their ancestors are still in the houses in Fisherrow and Musselburgh today. And you wonder what they do with themselves, because there's no real fishing industry here now. Okay, so just before we head round to the pub, we're just beside the River Esk here, and a lovely rounded a little structure, probably a summer house, dating to I think 1776, before the building it's attached to was constructed. That's Erskine House, and you can see that little structure on a beautiful map of Musselburgh dating to 1824. Stop twittering so much. Yeah, it's a lovely coloured map. There's some maps that are better than others. This is just a beautiful map, and you can see that structure just a little more than a dot on that map. A little gem.
£5 exactly, please. Thanks.
That's a good price. Sometimes you see £5 and 5 pence and you think, you don't just make it the 5.
Aye. Well, I've got some funny prices. Some of the wine's like £5, 47, you know. And then some of the half pints are, because it's an odd number, like
Yeah.
4.95, so pints, you know, 38 or something like that.
Bring back the
Now
half
you're having
penny.
to go to the bank for coppers every couple of days.
That's superb. Thanks very much.
There we go, enjoy.
Well, I've made it to Stag's. Just a lovely pub. Because I'm still not used to this camera, I find that I'm looking at the pull-out, not the pull-out screen, I'm looking at the kind of screen and at myself as opposed to the lens. And as I've said in a previous video, the viewer can tell the difference. Just now I'm looking at myself on the screen, and just now I'm looking at the lens of the camera. Stop squeaking. That's actually quite important, I think. It's something I'll need to try and remember. Very hard, because they're so close together, I find my eye going to look at myself, just to check how big my nose is. So the Battle of Pinkie, in fact, hold on till I get some notes out. Oh. The Battle of Pinkie in 1547 took place in this sort of area, around the River Esk, Fisherrow, and I think the main bulk of the battle took place in the Musselburgh side of the river. And it was part of an attempt to join Scotland and England together, to unite the two countries by marrying Queen Mary Queen of Scots, unless I got my Marys mixed up, and Prince Edward of England. I mean, you know, I think Queen Mary, although she was queen, I think she was only about 4 years old at the time. An infant queen. And I dare say there was others running the country on her behalf. But this was just part of that attempt to join Scotland and England together. And it was the biggest battle ever fought on Scottish soil. The biggest battle ever fought between Scotland and England. Huge thing. There was about 36, I mean obviously figures vary depending on what source you read, but 36,000 Scottish soldiers and 16,000 English soldiers, and you would have thought that the Scots would have taken a day, but they didn't. They were defeated. Not entirely sure what happened. I think one thing I read, that it may well have been the case that one or two of those in charge of the Scots army were perhaps not as experienced as they could have been, and they misinterpreted a move by certain groups of English soldiers, main body, or certain large groups of English soldiers. They misinterpreted that as a retreat, and they then crossed the River Esk to go after them, but it wasn't a retreat. They were just moving troops around the place. And in crossing over the river, the Scottish army gave up its defensive position and made itself vulnerable to attack, in particular from English cavalry, who sort of overran them. We're talking thousands of men died that day. It was a pretty massive battle, you know. The last pitch battle between Scotland and England. And it wasn't until some years later, in 1707, that the two countries were eventually joined together. And not everybody was happy with that. If you're in this area, whether you're on the John Muir Way or just having a dander around like myself, you can't visit the area and not come into Stag's Pub, where I am now, or the Volunteer Arms. It is a gem. I said earlier on, in the same family since 1858, I think it is, which is astonishing in itself. And the interiors is just, there's a lot of original Victorian features. There's old brewery mirrors. It's an absolute gem. Good range of beers as well. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. It's been an enjoyable day for me. A bit cold. Cold spell of weather as spring appears. I'm Eddie Burns. Take care, and I'll see you again.